All right, good people. We are back. We started our previous broadcast, but we had some technical difficulties. But no worries, we are back, and we're just gonna keep rolling with the punches. Um, I am attorney Takora Davis. Whether you're watching live or on the replay, I'm attorney Takora Davis, and I am the founder and CEO of the Creators Law Firm. This is an intellectual property and business law firm where we help experts and entrepreneurs protect their brands so they can grow their business with peace of mind. Today, we're going to be sharing and discussing who really owns the White Lives Matter trademark. We wanted to talk about this because many people are sharing their thoughts on the internet and in the interwebs, and there's actually lots of podcast episodes about it. And I wanted to share my 2 cents. So I do want to kind of really just start over. But again, I'm an attorney. I primarily practice trademark law and have done so for the past 5.5 years. Filed over 1,000 trademark applications and counting for hundreds of clients, and we have a 98.5% success rate when it comes to those registrations. So we love representing our clients and talking about anything that deals with intersections of pop culture and law, particularly intellectual property law, and how that the lessons that we learn from celebrities and other businesses affect our smaller businesses. So, if you have any trademarks, I would love for you to put that in the comments. Like, how many do you have? Do you have one? Do you have two? Or do you desire to have any? And so, we're going to get right into the content while you guys are sharing that with us, because again, we would love to know that. So, when it comes to what's been happening, like what has happened over the past couple of days is that there have been some articles written about two Black men claiming ownership over the phrase White Lives Matter. And they have been sharing, Rolling Stone has written an article, Black Enterprise. There have been some other articles written. And basically, they're saying, like, hey, Kanye West can't sell White Lives Matter shirts because two Black men own the trademark. And so, me being the researcher that I am, I said, let me go and look at this because trademarks, at least federal trademark registrations and even state trademarks, are public record. And so, you can easily, if you know what you're doing, I say easily, but you can go and you can search for these trademarks to see who is the owner. Are there any filings? Are there any registrations? And so we're going to chat about that because um, these two gentlemen in the image right here, Ramses and Quentin, they're the owners of a show. It's an Arizona based podcast and radio show called Civic Cypher. And their show, I believe, really came into fruition in 2020 after the George Floyd was killed, and there was a lot of civil unrest and protests and things like that. And so they engage in really amazing conversations. And so one of their listeners allegedly came into ownership of the White Lives Matter trademark, and they apparently did not want to they basically said, hey, they did not want to uh monetize the trademark. And so this is a clip from one of the articles where it says that they were gifted the trademark from a long-time anonymous listener on their show. The listener procured ownership of the phrase in 2020 to ensure it didn't fall into the wrong hands and offered to transfer the trademark to them in September of this year. And then it officially entered into their possession October 28th, which is really October 17th, giving them sole ownership over the phrase and the ability to sue anyone who uses the saying for financial gain. So this part right here kind of made me pause for the cause because the trademark application that they have is not a registration, it's just an application. And so I was very curious around how did this person come into ownership of this phrase and they don't have a registered trademark. There's nothing that says that. So I, of course, did my due diligence and I started to look at the trademark. And here is their trademark application. It says White Lives Matter. So I really want to show you guys how you can properly read a trademark application. So if you go on uspto.gov and then you search for White Lives Matter, this is the first trademark in a list of various trademarks that will pop up. And so you can see that this word mark was filed in connection with these goods and services, which is like class 25. And trademarks are filed in different classes. There's 45 different classes you can choose from. And those different classes will house collections and groupings of different types of products and services. Classes 1 through 35 all deal with products, and then, 34, and then 35 through 45 deal with services. So this is a product based trademark because it's in class 25. And so the products that they want to have ownership over are clothing and t shirts and sweatshirts and things like that. You can also see that this is a standard character mark. This basically is saying, hey, we just own the words, or we want to own the words. Also, that's important is there's a serial number. So a serial number is every single trademark application gets a serial number. The serial number is a 8-digit code that or identifying number that is given to the trademark application, and people can monitor the status of their trademark by these serial numbers. Every application gets a serial number, but not every application gets a registration number. So if you look at this screenshot, there's nothing on here that shows the registration number. Also, you see that the filing date is October 3rd, 2022. And it says the current basis or the original filing basis is 1B. This is really important. This 1B basically says, I think of B as before sales. A is after sales. So you'll see 1A and 1B. I look at 1B and I'm like, okay, before sales. This application is filed in what we call an intent to use basis, meaning that they intend to use the trademark sometime in the future. Also, they're not sharing any proof of how they've made sales of shirts or anything like that, nor has that previous owner shown that. So, and you see that the owner is Civic Cipher. You can also see that an assignment has been recorded and it shows that, and that's true. And then you can see their attorney of record. It says the type of trademark, register principal. So this is the part where people say, well, it's registered. No, it's just telling you that there's two different trademark registers. There's a principal and a supplemental. So they're applying for registration on the principal, but it doesn't mean that they're going to end up there. And then you also see live. Live, that live dead indicator, live does not mean that the registration is active. It just means that this application is pending. So they do not have a registered trademark. They do have a pending application. And so to say they have ownership, they own the trademark is journalistically false. Like it is legally false because they do not own the application. Excuse me, they do not own the registration. They own an application. And I liken it to this. Like if you went to college or a trade school, if I said, I'm going to apply to Spelman, and I applied to Spelman yesterday, Spelman College. I applied to Spelman yesterday, and now I'm a student at Spelman. You all would look at me like, did you get an acceptance letter? Like, when did you first start classes? No. I'm a student because I applied. If I responded to you in that way, y'all would look at me like I was crazy because that's not how this works. So what is happening is the equivalent to that scenario I just shared with you. Applying for a trademark does not mean you're an owner. Just like applying to college does not mean that you're a college student. You have to wait to be accepted into college, right? So it's the same rationale. Your application for a trademark has to be accepted and approved by the trademark office. Right now, that has not happened because if it had happened, we would see a registration number, which is 7 digits. The serial number is 8 digits. We would also see that their current filing basis would say 1A, not 1B, right? So we have to be very careful and do our due diligence. And it would be really great if the media outlets would also just interview talented and skilled trademark attorneys, because there are many of us out here. And they would be able to ask these questions of us so that we can provide clarity, because there's now many people who truly believe that these gentlemen own the trademark, and they do not. They own an application, and that application has to be vetted. What's also very interesting is Black Lives Matter is not even a registered trademark. So it would be very interesting to see if the trademark office even approves white lives matter as a trademark, because black lives matter is not even a trademark. So I think that that would be very interesting if they're saying that black lives matter is such an overused term that it cannot function as a trademark. Arguably, they could apply similar analysis to white lives matter and reject this application entirely. Now, I also just do not see any evidence that the previous alleged owner of this trademark that gifted it to the radio host had a federal registration. There is no record of that. Maybe they had a state registration, but even still, we would be able to find that, or they can produce that. But there's some things that have been shared that were very concerning for me as an attorney. And if these were my clients, I would be telling them to be quiet and stop doing this media tour, or be careful about what you say on the media tour, because particularly I want to point you all attention to this. They said in this article that the listener, meaning the person who allegedly owned the trademark, procured ownership of the phrase in 2020. So look at the first paragraph, third line. To ensure it didn't fall into the wrong hands, they offered to transfer the trademark to them, right? In the second paragraph, second sentence, it says, this person who first procured the trademark didn't really love owning it, because the purpose was not necessarily to get rich off of it. The purpose was to make sure that other people did get rich off of it. But there's something else. And let me look at my other, no. Where is it at? Oh, this is the part that I wanted to bring your attention to. This second paragraph, it says, this individual didn't want to produce shirts, but rather it's my understanding that they were doing it to ensure the right people benefited from it. So if the person, let's say for instance, they did file a trademark application and they said, well, I never wanted to produce shirts, then their trademark application could be challenged. You have to have a pure, true intention when you file a trademark application to eventually use it. But if you're saying, or if what they're saying is true, this person never had an intention to make sales, they just wanted to stop other people from potentially using it, then that means that their trademark could be challenged on basically saying it was fraudulently filed and it's void ab initio, meaning it's void at the onset. So I would not tell my clients to publicly admit this, because it would put their existing trademark application in jeopardy if it was assigned properly. So it's a lot of stuff. And there are some other people who say, well, white lives matter is a racist phrase, or it's a common phrase. You can't trademark common words. You can't trademark disparaging words. Well, that's not accurate anymore, because in 2017, there's an Asian rock band called the Slants, and they won a Supreme Court case that basically said they had the right to refer to themselves by the Slants, which is a disparaging name referred to Asian folks. And they wanted to reclaim the slur, similar to how some Black people want to reclaim the N word. And they said it violated their First Amendment speech. So you can have trademarks now since 2020 that have cuss words in them, and they are disparaging or salacious, right? They all this type of stuff, because this case came through. Ultimately, y'all, I just wanted to clear the record. They do not have a registered trademark. They just don't. They have an application, and that application has to go through various levels of approval, and it has to overcome the analysis of multiple trademark attorneys that work for the government. And they can reject this application under various doctrines. And so before they can really say that they legally own it and nobody else can use it, particularly Kanye or anybody else for that matter, they have to secure ownership, and that has not happened yet. Also, there's an argument that Kanye debuting these shirts at Paris Fashion Week, which was October 2nd or 3rd, I believe it's October 2nd. If Kanye debuted the shirts first and he made sales first, even if they filed their application first, he could challenge it, Do I think he's going to do that? I don't know. You cannot predict what Kanye does, right? But I wanted to share this information with you all because it's really important for us to understand how to look at trademarks, how to determine who is the owner, and not always just believe everything that is reported because that's not how these things work. It doesn't just work because you filed an application, you have a registration because you have a serial number. That's not that's not how this works. It's going to take a year and a half or so for this to be approved unless they request for expedited handling. But generally, expedited handling of a trademark application happens if there's pending litigation. So, I mean, it could be expedited, but that doesn't seem to be a case here. And finally, before any registered trademark can be registered, you have to make sales. They're going to have to monetize this if they actually want approval. So, I wanted to share with you all that legally, nobody owns or has the federal trademark registration for White Lives Matter. They own the application, and that application has to be reviewed and approved or rejected. And arguably, there's some questionable activity as it relates to how they came into, not necessarily how they came into possession of it, but do they actually have, which really sucks if they paid for something that they didn't have to pay for. But if they came into possession of a trademark and the previous owner or alleged owner really didn't have rights. So I wanted to kind of share that with you all today. I don't know if anybody has comments here or on YouTube or on Facebook, but I wanted to share with you all these things because it's really important, again, that we have a clear understanding of actually what's happening so that we don't get into a situation where we're saying no they own it because people were trying to tussle with me in the comments on Instagram like no they actually own it and the media is reporting that they own it and I'm like I'm not new to this, I'm true to this, I know what I'm talking about. There's no legal owner over it. If you haven't made those sales, then it's questionable here. It's there's no registered trademark on file. And so saying they own the registration, that's not true. They own the application, and that application will have to take some time to actually get approved. So, again, thank you guys so much for listening today. I would appreciate that you take the time to like, comment, and subscribe to this content, share it with others. My goal has always been to leverage my smarts and my platform to empower others with the legal knowledge they need to grow and expand their businesses. And these conversations need to be had more so that, my people perish for a lack of knowledge. We don't want to perish. We don't want to put ourselves in positions where we expose ourselves to legal liability or we have legal targets that are on our business's back because we fail to act appropriately. So, thank you guys so much again for tuning in, and I will share with you next time. And also, if there's anything else that you want me to react to, like if there is other articles, if there are other questions that you have and you want me to create content around that, I am so happy to do that. You can share that with us via a private message or email that to info@creatorslawfirm.com. And we will see if that aligns with our content goals and plans and create content around that for you. Thank you so much.